Good day everyone. Welcome to the discussion of module number 8 in the subject PS1, the Child and Adolescent Learners and Learning Principles. Class, before we start, as a teacher, you will be faced with students with varied abilities. So some are to process information and score high on tests instantaneously, while others may need more facilitation to be able to understand a concept well. So there is no clear consensus on the definition of intelligence. If you are to ask yourself, how do you define intelligence? So a number of traits to describe the term will surely emerge. This is true with the other experts who offered different definitions, most of them centering on the ability to think abstractly or to solve problems effectively. So this is according to Sternberg, 1984. So these are the objectives, class, that we need to attend at the end of this module. So first, analyze the functions of intelligence in enhancing learning experiences. Second, conduct a group presentation of the basic tenets and assumptions of the intelligence theories. Third, create a concept map on understanding of intelligence and discuss the similarities and differences. And then the last one, write an analysis of definitions of intelligence and integrate it. So module number 7, class, covers also our chapter 7, which entitles Theories of Intelligence. So perspectives on human diversity, understanding intelligence. Intelligence is an adaptive thinking or action. So Piaget highlighted that it centers in some way on ability to think abstractly or to solve problems effectively. The study of intelligence, usually expressed in intelligence quotients, yung IQ na tinatawag po natin, or the general mental ability, the G terms. So dates from at least the beginning of the 20th century and has provided a foil against which other approaches to cognitive development have railed. So when we say cognition, class, it is the mental process or faculty by which knowledge is acquired. So the cognitive processes that help us to know and understand include a wide variety of activities such as attending, perceiving, learning, thinking, and remembering. So that all comprises cognitive development. So cognitive development is the changes that occur in children's mental skills and abilities between birth and early adulthood, when cognitive growth is essentially complete. So class, when you hear the word intelligence, the concept of IQ testing may immediately come to your mind. Um, Intelligence is often defined as our intellectual potential, something we are born with, something that can be measured, and our capacity that is difficult to change. So that is what's intelligence or cognitive development may mean with these perspectives of human diversity or the understanding of our different intelligence. Okay, class. So next, the following approaches and theories offer integral knowledge on how we understand intelligence. So there are three theories or approaches presented in our module, class. So first, let's talk about the psychometric approach. So the psychometric approach, according to psychometric theories, intelligence is a trait or a set of traits that characterizes some people to a greater extent than others. The goals then are to identify these traits precisely and to measure them so that differences among individuals can be described. So class, for further explanation, psychometric theories are based on a model that portrays intelligence as a composite of abilities measured by mental tests. So this model can be quantified. For example, performance on a number series test might represent a weighted composite of number, reasoning, and memory abilities for a complex series. Mathematical models allow for weakness in one area to be offset by strong ability in another area of test performance. So class, in this way, superior ability in reasoning can compensate for a deficiency in number ability. So one of the earliest of the psychometric theories came from the British psychologist named Charles E. Spearman, who published his first major article on intelligence in 1904. So he noticed what may seem obvious now, that people who did well on one mental ability test tended to do well on others. So while people who perform poorly on one of them also tended to perform poorly on others. So to identify the underlying sources of these performance differences, Spearman devised factor analysis, a statistical technique that examines patterns of individual differences in test scores. So he concluded that just two kinds of factors underlie all individual differences in test scores. The first and more important factor, which he labeled the general factor or the G, so pervades performance on all tasks requiring intelligence. So in other words, regardless of the task, if it requires intelligence, or it requires the G, the second factors is specifically related to each particular test. So for an example again, when someone takes a test of arithmetical reasoning, his performance on the test requires a general factor that is common to all the tests, and a specific factor that is related to whatever mental operations are required for mathematical reasoning as a distinct from other kinds of thinking. But what exactly is G, or yung letter G na binabanggit dyan ni Spearman? So after all, giving something a name is not the same as understanding what it is. Spearman did not know exactly what the general factor was, but he proposed in 1972 that it might be something like mental energy. So according to Spearman class, yung letter G that he is pertaining to this general mental ability is also pertains with what we so called the mental energy. So the next theory will be the general mental ability. So Charles Spearman, again, proposed a two-factor theory of intelligence consisting of a general mental ability called the G. So that contributes to performance on many different kinds of tasks. So this G factor is what accounts for Spearman's observation that people were often consistent across a range of tasks. So Charles Spearman proposed that intelligence has two aspects. One, the general ability or the G, and the second one is the special abilities or the S, as each of which is specific to a particular kind of task. So class, in the general mental ability, it is defined as the ability to comprehend and interpret verbal information. It is also defined as the ability to perceive and process numbers and information given in tabular or graphical format. It is also the ability to think laterally and make logical connections between different concepts. So the general mental ability, or the GMA test, measures the general mental ability of the test takers working in a variety of individual, contributor, or managerial roles. So this test is useful in assessing employees' potential irrespective of their educational background and job experience. So the general mental ability test can be used in both talent acquisition and development initiatives across roles, job levels, and industries. So class, if you notice in the explanation of the general mental ability, it is also used um, it is also used in some companies. Parang they required to get the general mental ability, or they are anong tawag na nun? They are conducting IQ tests on their employees to check their educational background, and also to check if their um, mental ability or mental capacity is um, ang tawag na doon, is appropriate in the position that they are applying for. But in those, not all the company is requiring this general mental ability test. There are some lang na company or na, tawag na to? Yes, company or industries, ganyan, that they are requiring um, general mental ability test. Kapag tayo nga sa ating mga teachers, we are required in doing this too. Pero it is called a psychological and neurological test ata, if I am not mistaken, kapag ka mag-a-apply po tayo sa may DepEd, sa Department of Education, sa public na po. If you are luckily hired, these are one of the requirements that you are going to do, or that you are going to get yung tawag na nito, yung result ng ating psychological test, and then yung neurological test. So these are one of the requirements that we need to do, or to get when we are hired in the Department of Education na permanently. So, ito yung sinasabi ni Charles Sperman dito, that the general mental ability may use in some tawag na nito, in some work that requires it, or that requires the employees to do it. Okay, next class will be the fluid and crystallized abilities. So, fluid intelligence and crystallized intelligence rely on distinct brain systems despite their interrelationship in the performance of many tasks. So, fluid intelligence involves comprehension, reasoning, and problem solving, while crystallized intelligence involves recalling stored knowledge and past experiences. So, those are the differences between the two classes, the fluid and crystallized abilities. They have different functions in terms of intelligence, or the mental abilities. Okay, first, Raymond Cattell and John Horn assume that intelligence is made up of fluid intelligence and crystallized intelligence. So, these two persons or psychologists are the proponent of the fluid and crystallized abilities. So first, let's go for fluid intelligence. So fluid intelligence is the ability to use one's mind actively to solve novel problems. For example, to solve verbal analogies, remember unrelated pairs of words, or recognize the relationship among geometric figures. So fluid intelligence class is the capacity to think speedily and reason flexibly in order to solve new problems without relying on the past experience and accumulated knowledge. So fluid intelligence allows us to perceive and draw inferences about relationship among variables and to conceptualize abstract information, which aids problem solving. So it is correlated with essential skills such as comprehension and learning. So example of the use of fluid intelligence is including solving puzzles. So these are the example class when we use fluid intelligence. So these are solving puzzles, constructing strategies to deal with new problems, seeing patterns and statistical data, and engaging in speculative philosophical reasoning. And then, according to John Horn, 1969, he pointed out that fluid intelligence is formless and relies only minimally upon acculturation and prior learning, which includes both formal and informal education. So this may see in a child who undergo formal education, or the child which has an informal education. So we can see in both children this kind of intelligence. Next is the crystallized intelligence. So in contrast, crystallized intelligence is the use of knowledge acquired through schooling and other life experiences. So crystallized intelligence class, it refers to the ability to utilize skills and knowledge acquired via prior learning. So the use of crystallized intelligence involves the recalling or pre-existing information as well as skills. So examples of the crystallized intelligence class um, are includes recalling historical events and dates, remembering geographical locations, building one's vocabulary, and reciting poetic texts. So those are the examples when we talk about crystallized intelligence. So if you notice, it is merely and remembering, and also yung memorizing some part of the poem, or memorizing some part of a um, paragraph. So it may also include in crystallized intelligence. So the use of crystallized intelligence involves the recalling of pre-existing information as well as skills. So for example, another example class, knowing how to ride a bike or read a book. So according to John Horn, he explained that crystallized intelligence is a precipitate out of experience, which stems from a prior application or fluid intelligence. So effectively completing tasks involving language mechanics such as vocabulary building and general information relies on one's crystallized intelligence. So crystallized intelligence rises gradually and remains stable throughout adulthood until it begins to decline after the age of 60. So that is for the crystallized intelligence class, crystallized and fluid intelligence. There are some similarities with this kind of intelligence, but there are a lot of differences that we can see with regards to these two intelligence. No, based on the example given, yung isa, si fluid intelligence, this intelligence or this ability merely rely on the conceptualizing, yung for problem solving, just like that. So parang yun yung mga examples under fluid intelligence, while in crystallized intelligence, this is recalling, remembering, tapos yung building new vocabulary words, exploring, kasama na rin ang exploring, and then um, memorizing. Memorizing some skills that is prior to their learning or prior to their knowledge. Just like, yun nga, kasama kasi doon yung recalling. Parang if they tend to do it again, they can, or children can recall that they learn it na from their past experiences or from their past learning, outside or inside the school. Okay, class, so let's move on to another theory. So this is the theory of Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligence. So Howard Gardner rejects the idea that a single IQ score is a meaningful measure of human intelligence. So Gardner argues that there are at least 8 distinct intellectual abilities. So according to Howard Gardner class, our intelligence is not only focused on one aspect, but instead there are lots of intelligence or potential that can be developed by a certain individual as he or she gets older. So he proposed that the following multiple intelligence that an individual can have is this follows, or I mean it will be presented in the next slide. But according to according to Howard Gardner, there are 8 intellectual abilities that a person can have. So according to the theory, an intelligence or modality must fulfill the following 8 criteria. So these are the following 8 criteria, class. First, isolation as a brain function. So certain brain areas are identified in cases of brain injury and degenerative disease to identify actual physiological locations for a specific location in human brain. So class, this is potential for brain isolation by brain damage. Next, number 2, prodigies, savants, and exceptional individuals. So human record of genius such as Mozart being able to perform on the piano at the age of 4 and other people displaying unique abilities, whether it may be in music, mathematics, or language, the evidence of specific human abilities which can demonstrate themselves to a high degrees in unique cases is a criterion for identification of an intelligence. Highly developed samples of a true intelligence are recorded in rare occurrences. So class, in prodigies, in this number 2, this is the existence of idiots, of savants or savants, of the prodigies, and other exceptional people. So number 3, set of core operations. So there is an identifiable set of procedures and practices which are unique to each true intelligence. For an example, in understanding language, there are letters and words. In music, there are musical notes. In logical mathematical, there are numbers. So in this set of core operations class, this is unidentifiable core operations or set of core operations. Next, number 4, developmental history with an expert and performance. So as experts continue to study the developmental stages of human growth and learning, a clear pattern of developmental history is being documented of the human mind. So a true intelligence has an identifiable set of stages of growth with a mastery level which exists as an end state in human development. So we can see examples of people who have reached the mastery level for each intelligence. So in number 4 class, this is an evolutionary history and evolutionary plausibility. So for number 5, this is the evolutionary history. So as cultural anthropologists continue to study the history of human evolution, there is adequate evidence that our species has developed intelligence over time through human experience. So in evolutionary history class, this is a distinct developmental progression. Number 6, supported psychological tasks. Clinical psychologists can identify sets of tasks for different domains of human behavior. A true intelligence can be identified by specific tasks which can be carried out, observed, and measured. So in supported psychological tasks, it is the support from experimental psychological tasks. Next, number 7. Supported psychometric tasks. The use of psychometric instruments to measure intelligence have traditionally been used to measure only specific types of ability. However, these tests can be designed and used to identify and quantify true unique intelligences. So this is the support from psychometric findings. And then the last one, number 8, encoded into a symbol system. So humans have developed many kinds of symbol systems over the time for varied disciplines. A true intelligence has its own set of images it uses which are unique to itself and are important in completing its identified set of tasks. So in the last one class, this is the susceptibility to encoding or the symbolic expression. So class, those are the 8 separation criteria according to Howard Gardner. So class, from the 8 criteria, the 8 multiple intelligence were developed. So we have intrapersonal, linguistic, bodily kinesthetic, interpersonal, logical reasoning, musical, spatial, and naturalist. So isa-isahin natin yun, class. Theory of multiple intelligences. So this theory suggests that traditional psychometric views of intelligence are too limited. Gardner first outlined his theory in his 1983 book Frames of Mind, The Theory of Multiple Intelligence, where he suggested that all people have different kinds of intelligences. Gardner proposed that there are 8 intelligences and has suggested the possible addition of a 9, also known as existentialist intelligence. But class, it is not included yet because it is being suggested pa lang. Possible addition pa lang siya. So it is not included in our module or even in our graph. So while a person might be particularly strong in a specific area such as musical intelligence, he or she most likely possesses a range of abilities. For an example, an individual might be strong in verbal, musical, and naturalistic intelligence. So according to Howard Gardner class, an individual or a children can have a multiple intelligence. Not only one, not only two, but he or she can have these 8 intelligences that is being presented. So first, let's go for visual spatial intelligence. So these are the people who are strong in visual spatial intelligence. These are good at visualizing things. So these individuals are often good with directions as well as maps, charts, videos, and pictures. So the strengths of this intelligence class is visual and spatial judgment. So these are the characteristics. So people with visual spatial intelligence can read and write for enjoyment. They are good at putting puzzles together. So they can interpret pictures, graphs, and charts well. They are enjoying drawing, painting, and the visual arts. And they can recognize patterns easily. So these are the potential career choices class kapag ka-under tayo ng visual spatial. So if you are a strong in visual spatial intelligence, good career choices for you are architect, artist, and engineer. So those are the professions that we can have if we tend to have this kind of intelligence which falls under visual spatial intelligence. Okay, next one is the linguistic verbal intelligence. So these are the people who are strong in linguistic verbal intelligence. They are able to use words well, both when writing and speaking. These individuals are typically very good at writing stories, memorizing information, and reading. So the strength of this intelligence class is the words, the language, and writing. So the characteristics of this intelligence, people with linguistic verbal intelligence can remember written and spoken information. They are also enjoying reading and writing. They can do debate or give persuasive speeches. They are also able to explain things well, and they have this or they can use their humor when telling stories. So these are the potential career choices under our linguistic verbal intelligence. So good career choices for you are you may become a writer or journalist, you may become a lawyer or a teacher. A teacher, that what is you are working for right now. So dapat class, we are really good in this kind of intelligence, which is the linguistic verbal intelligence. For you as a future educator, you must have a good reasoning. You must have a good ang tawag ganito. You are also enjoying reading and writing. You are good in speaking in front of others. You are good at sharing information, and also you can able to explain things well. Because this intelligence, this kind of linguistic verbal intelligence, must possess by a future teacher like you, class. Okay, next is the logical mathematical intelligence. So these are the people who are strong in logical mathematical intelligence. They are good at reasoning, recognizing patterns, and logically analyzing problems. So these individuals tend to think conceptually about numbers, relationship, and patterns. So the strength of this intelligence is analyzing problems and mathematical operations. So the characteristics are as follows. Number 1, have excellent problem-solving skills. They enjoy thinking about abstract ideas. They like conducting scientific experiments, and they can solve complex computations. So the potential career choices for you, if you are or if you have this kind of intelligence, logical, mathematical, you can become a scientist, mathematician, computer programmer. You can also become an engineer and accountant. So those are the possible career if you have this kind of intelligence which falls on logical mathematical intelligence. Next class is bodily kinesthetic intelligence. So those who have high bodily kinesthetic intelligence are said to be good at body movement, performing actions, and physical control. So people who are strong in this area tend to have excellent hand-eye coordination and dexterity. So the strength of this intelligence is their physical movement and their motor control. So the characteristics of bodily kinesthetic intelligence, so they are skilled at dancing and sports. They are enjoying creating things with his or her hands. So they have excellent physical coordination, and they remember by doing rather than hearing or seeing. It is like the opposite of the um, linguistic and verbal intelligence. They can merely, they can merely remember what is the information if they are doing it rather than they are hearing or seeing it. So the potential career choices under this intelligence is to become a dancer, builder, sculptor, and actor. So those are the possible profession if you have this kind of intelligence class, bodily kinesthetic intelligence. Okay, next one class is the musical intelligence. So people who have strong musical intelligence are good at thinking in patterns, rhythms, and sounds. So they have a strong appreciation for music and are often good at musical composition and performance. So the strength of this musical intelligence class is the rhythm and then the music. So the characteristics, people with musical intelligence, syempre class, they enjoy singing and playing musical instrument. They can recognize musical patterns and tones easily. So masasabi nila if you are sintonado, if you are out of tune, or your pitch is good, just like that. So they can also remember songs and melodies, and they have a rich understanding of musical structure, rhythm, and notes. So the possible potential career or good career choices for you if you have this kind of intelligence class are, of course, you can be a musician, composer, singer, music teacher, or a conductor. Okay, so next class is the interpersonal intelligence. So those who have strong interpersonal intelligence are good at understanding and interacting with other people. So these individuals are skilled at assessing the emotions, motivations, desires, and intentions of those around them. So the strength of this kind of intelligence is understanding and relating to other people. So the characteristics are they can communicate well verbally, they are skilled at nonverbal communication, they see situations from different perspectives, they can create positive relationship with others, and they can resolve conflicts in a group setting. So the potential career choices class, if you tend to have this kind of intelligence, you can become a psychologist, you can become a philosopher, a counselor, a salesperson, or even a politician class. You can be a politician if you have this kind of interpersonal intelligence. Kasi you can be, you can become a influencer. Influencer is pwede rin palakas in this kind of intelligence. So next class is intrapersonal intelligence. So individuals who are strong in intrapersonal intelligence are good at being aware of their own emotional states, feelings, and motivations. So they tend to enjoy self-reflection and analysis, including daydreaming, exploring relationship with others, and assessing their personal strengths. So the strength of this intelligence is introspection and self-reflection. So the characteristics, so people with interpersonal intelligence, they analyze their strengths and weaknesses well. They enjoy analyzing theories and ideas. They have excellent self-awareness, and they understand the basis for his or her own motivations and feelings. So the potential career choices, if you have this intrapersonal intelligence class, you can become a philosopher, a writer, a theorist, or even a scientist. So those are the professions that we can have if we fall on intrapersonal intelligence. Okay, next class and the last one with the for the 8 multiple intelligence is the naturalistic intelligence. So naturalistic is the most recent addition to Gardner's theory and has been met with more resistance than his original 7 intelligence. So according to Gardner, individuals who are high in this type of intelligence are more in tune with nature and are often interested in nurturing, exploring the environment and learning about other species. So these individuals are said to be highly aware of even subtle changes to their environments. So the strength of this intelligence class is finding patterns and relationship to nature. So the characteristics of the people with naturalistic intelligence are they are interested in subjects such as botany, biology, and zoology. They can categorize and catalog information easily. They are enjoying camping, gardening, hiking, and exploring the outdoors. So they dislike learning unfamiliar topics that have no connection to nature. So typically class, these are the environmentalists and the nature lover people. So the potential career choices, if you are strong in naturalistic intelligence, the good career choices for you are you can become a biologist, conservationist pala, gardener, and also a farmer. So, pasok na pasok dito class yung mga plantita at plantito na nauso ngayong pandemic. So they have this kind of intelligence which is the naturalistic intelligence. So class, those are the 8 multiple intelligence that Howard Gardner developed. Okay, next class, let's go for the last theory of cognitive intelligence theory. We have the Robert Sternberg Triarchic Theory. So another interesting theory of intelligence was proposed by Robert Sternberg, the Triarchic Theory of Intelligence, that emphasizes 3 aspects of intelligent behavior, such as components, context, and experience. So the Triarchic Theory of Intelligence proposes that there are 3 distinct types of intelligence. We have the practical, the distinct, and the analytical. So it was formulated by Robert J. Sternberg, a well-known psychologist whose research often focuses on human intelligence and creativity. So the Triarchic Theory is comprised of 3 sub-theories, each of which relates to a specific kind of intelligence. The contextual sub-theory, which corresponds to practical intelligence, or the ability to successfully function in one's environment. The second one is the experiential sub-theory, which corresponds to creative intelligence, or the ability to deal with novel situations or issues. And the third one is the componential sub-theory, which corresponds to analytical intelligence or the ability to solve problems. So Sternberg broke his theory down into the following 3 subcategories. So let's go first for the componential intelligence. So this is the ability to think abstractly, process information effectively. So when we say componential sub-theory, The componential theory outlines the various mechanisms that result in intelligence. So according to Sternberg, this subtheory is comprised of three kinds of mental processes or components. So we have three mental processes in this componential theory class. We have meta components, performance components, and knowledge acquisition components. So when we say meta components, this enable us to monitor, control, and evaluate our mental processing so that we can make decisions, solve problems, and create plans. And then when we say performance components naman, these are what enable us to take action on plans and decisions arrived at by the meta components. And then for the last, knowledge acquisition components. So this enable us to learn new information that will help us carry out our plans. So those are the three components under componential intelligence. Okay, next, letter B is the contextual component. So intelligent people adapt to the environment they are in. For an example, a job setting. Shape that environment to make it suit them better or find a better environment, such as people are street smarts. So when we say contextual subtheory, the contextual subtheory says that intelligence is intertwined with the individual's environment. So thus intelligence is based on the way one functions in their everyday circumstances, including one's ability to adapt to one's environment, so they can select the best environment for oneself, or see they can shape the environment to better fit one's needs and desire. So letter C is the experiential component. So what is intelligent when one first encounters a new task is not the same as what it is intelligent after extensive experience with that task. So experiential subtheory, the experiential subtheory proposes that there is a continuum of experience from novel to automation to which intelligence can be applied. It's at the extremes of this continuum that intelligence is best demonstrated. At the novel end of the spectrum, an individual is confronted with an unfamiliar task or a situation and must come up with a way to deal with it. At the automation end of the spectrum, one has become familiar with a given task or situation and can now handle it with minimal thought. So that would be all for today, class, for module number 8, the theories of cognitive development. So let me leave you with this quotation. Intelligence is a moral category, according to Theodore Adorno. Learn from yesterday, live for today, hope for tomorrow. The important thing is not to stop questioning. By Albert Einstein. And whatever intelligences that we have, class, never let your emotions overpower your intelligence. So thank you for listening. Have a great day ahead.